Hey guys, welcome to another week of virtual learning. Hope everybody's doing well. This week we're going to focus on factoring by grouping. So sometimes we're going to get polynomials that have 4 terms. And if they have 4 terms, we can't use the MA method. MA method is only for 3 or trinomials. So we have to figure out some way to factor this, but we can't use MA. So what we're going to use is factoring by grouping, and it'll look kind of similar to what we do with the MA method, or AC method, as some of you might call it. So what I want to do is go ahead and group the first 2 terms, group the last 2 terms. And what I'm looking to do is take the biggest number out of each pair. So out of the green pair and out of the red pair. So we do this by listing factors, and this is why it's called factoring by grouping. So I list all the numbers that multiply to be 12. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Then I'm going to list all of the factors of 9. 1 and 9, 3 and 3. And if you remember from our MA method or AC method video, you're looking to find the biggest number that you can out of each of these. Well, looks like the biggest is 3. So since I'm factoring that out, I'm going to put that on the outside. Then, if you remember, write what's left over. So I have a 4 and a negative 3. Now we just list these. Well, that's A times A times A and A times A. And I take out or factor out as many as I can from both. Well, I can take out 1, 2 from here, and 1, 2 from here. So I took out A, 2. Well, what do we have left over? A and nothing. If you notice, that's also where the 4 came from and the 3 came from. Okay, so I could take out a 3a, and I'm left with 4a minus 3. Now I come over here and I start listing my factors. What can I factor out? Well, that's 1 and 4, 2 and 2. Here we've got 1 and 3. Well, what's the biggest number that I can take out of each? Well, just a 1. So that's going to go on the outside because we factored it out. That'll leave us with a 4 and a negative 3. Now I just need to list my A's. Well, this is just A. And this one doesn't have an A. There's no variable A here. So can I do anything with the variables there? No. So this A is just going to go back. Now if we did this correctly, both of our parentheses should be the same. And then, if they are the same, we're good. We're going to write what's in the parenthesis first, and then we're going to write what's on the outside just behind it. Now this is one way to write your answer, but most mathematicians are going to write it with the biggest A first. To me, it doesn't really matter. These are the same answers, but some people might get a little upset if you don't put the A to the second first. So either way. Now we call each of these parentheses factors. So one way of saying this would be 4a minus 3 is a factor of 12a to the third minus 9a squared plus 4a minus 3, which makes sense because we know factor means a number that multiplies to be something. Okay. So let's look at another one. And again, we're doing that same process that we use for the MA, But we have to use factoring by grouping because we have 4 terms. All right. So again, we're trying to factor out. We're trying to figure out what numbers multiply to give us the things we have here. So I'm going to group the first 2 and the last 2. So let's see, 35 is 1 and 35, 5 and 7. And then we know 5 is just 1 and 5. Okay, so let's see, it looks like the biggest number is 5. The biggest factor of 35 and 5 is 5. So we're going to factor that out. It's going to go on the outside. What do we have left? 7 and negative 1. Okay, well, let's see. xy is just x times y. And x is just x. If you're not sure where I got those from, just right here. Okay, let's go Lakers colors. There we go. So what can I factor out of both of those? Well, they both have x's. So I can put that here. But what do we have left? Well, 7y and nothing. So I'm not going to put anything with the 1 because the x had nothing left. And there we go. We factored out the first part. All right, now let's factor out 56y and 8. 56 is 1 and 56, 2 and 28, 4 and 14, 7 and 8. Let's see, 8 is 1 and 8, 2 and 4. So what's the biggest number there? Looks like 8. So we're going to factor that out. Now, this is a 8. What do we have left? Well, 7 and positive 1. Okay. Well, now let's look. We got to do the variables. Well, this is y and nothing. Y with nothing. Can't factor anything out, so the y just stays, and we close up the parenthesis. Now, we need to figure out how to make these parentheses the same. Now, be careful here, and I made this mistake just now. This negative should be here in front of the 7. Now, if you look, we've got positive 7y and a negative 1. And over here, we've got negative 7 and a positive 1. So those are opposites. So to fix that, I'm going to change this to negative. And if we remember what happens after that, that changes this to positive and this to negative. Now are the parentheses the same? They are. So what do we do with that? Well, since they're the same, positive 7y and negative 1, we write it in one parenthesis. And then we write what we have in the other parenthesis, which is 5x minus 8. Now, again, some mathematicians are going to tell you that the correct order is to go alphabetical. I don't really care either way. Just do whatever makes your teacher happy. Okay. And again, we would say that each of these parentheses is a factor. Okay. Well, let's try one more. And if you're wondering where these problems are coming from, they're from the practice problems I put on Google Classroom for you. So, all right. We've got 4 terms. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got to do factoring by grouping. So I'm going to group the first 2 and the last 2. Start listing numbers that multiply to be 12. 1 and 2, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. List 28's factors, 1 and 28, 2 and 14, 4 and 7. So what's the biggest number you can take out of both of those? Looks like it's a 4. So we're going to factor that out. What do we have left over? 3 and negative 7. Okay, well, xy is x times y, and x is just x. So it looks like we can take an x out of both of those. What does that leave us with? Y and nothing. All right, so now we got to do 15. That's 1 and 15, 3 and 5. 35 is 1 and 35, 5 and 7. So what's the biggest? 5. We're going to factor that out. So we've got negative 5, which gives me 3. Sorry, this should just be 5, negative 3, and positive 7. All right, y is just y, and nothing else. So we rewrite the y, close up the parenthesis. Now again, like the last problem, this is positive, this is negative, this is negative, this is positive. They're opposites. So I've got to put this negative here, which again, if you remember, changes the signs of everything after it. So positive and negative. Now these are the same. So I write that first, and I write whatever's left over after. And again, some people are going to tell you that you have to go in alphabetical order. I don't care. Yeah, it's great if you know your letters, but, you know, whatever. This is math, not English. So, with that in mind, and with everything I've shown you, that's factoring by grouping. I challenge you to try some ones on your own, take the quiz, and see how you can do. Until we meet again, this is Mr. Hunter.